What up, babers, babettes, and babes? Chapter 1074, Mark 3. Cover page. We got Queen, Caesar, and Sanji's father. Boruto's dad. All fighting. It kind of is what it is. We know that there was a falling out ever since Vegapunk was kind of the smartest of the group. I feel like that was kind of an ego hit to all of them. They all have a very large ego. This chapter was crazy. I don't know what Oda's smoking. I don't know how he's feeling, but it seems like every single time more assets are added to this arc, and I never know how it's going to end. But getting into this chapter, it starts off hot and it doesn't end. I don't know where the Fabrio stratum is. I guess it's like really low down, kind of by the docks, because that's where we last saw Sentomaru, the most offensive man in the world. And we see the Mark III pacifistas, which is what the chapter is named after. And we learn that a couple things. One, it seems like they're able to use devil fruits, kind of like the Lunafistas that are modeled after the warlords. These guys seem to either all have a different one or all a similar devil fruit. And I feel like this is the first time they probably tried out the lineage factor. This is when Vegapunk was probably figuring it out. And then he somewhat perfected it when it came to the Lunafistas, the warlorded pacifistas. They're capturing all the remaining government. The poor guys that are still on that island from the government are suffering. Like, that's got to be tough. There's just not a shot in the world. They have all the Lunafistas on their side. They have now 50, count them, 50 Mark III pacifistas, Sentomaru, the entire Straw Hat gang, every single Stella, just about, until this chapter kind of Bonnie, but she's kind of doing her own thing. But that's kind of the one side. And the other side we saw last chapter with Saturn, Borsellino. I almost said Bartolomeo because I'm watching Dressrosa in the anime, which is great, by the way. I might make a video on that. But Sentomaru's talking, and he's like, well, it doesn't seem like the government understands that I kind of betrayed them, that I'm going with Grandpa Punk. And so I guess I can act on my own. And he releases all 50. And he says, no matter what happens, I need you guys to make sure that he escapes with Straw Hat. I need you to make sure. Of course, at the moment, Vegapunk's gone, and that's kind of what the Straw Hats and everyone's dealing with now. Luffy said that he looked over all of it, and he's like, I couldn't find him. I couldn't find him at all. I don't know what we're going to do. And he's like, well, I don't see him on any of the monitors. And then there's kind of like a funny little thing there between him and Shaka, which Shaka, number one, is also my favorite of all the Stellas of Vegapunk, just because he seems the most rational, which is pretty accurate. Another thing that's very underrated is the fashion of this small little arc. Everyone's looking like futuristic with some cool shit. Zoro's looking fresh. Brooke's looking clean. Everyone's looking good in their own weird way. Stussy has also joined the group, a phenomenal asset to have. She seems very powerful. I mean, we got to put her up there, right? With as far as we know. Atlas was healed quickly, very quickly. They already got her up and running again. Not a problem at all. So we can see that they can definitely heal these guys very fast. I don't know who did that. But doesn't really matter too much. But looks like most of the Stellas are there except Pythagoras. So they're unable to find Vegapunk, and they all understand, like, we're trying to get this one dude out of here, and now we can't find him because of Bonnie, but it is what it is. Pythagoras is in the sea tower, which I believe is still within the dome, I believe. But then that becomes a lot interesting later. Sanji is simping for just about every woman that he sees. Both Stussy and the glutton one, the one that's all about experiencing things like the sleeping, the shitting, and the eating. There's another funny moment, and they're like, Zoro, you can't leave, bro. Like, we already lost one person. Can you please stay? Robin puts it the nicest. It's funny. She's like, just be a deer and wait. Okay, is that cool? And Zoro's like, fine. So him and Luffy are just straight up chilling. They're watching over Kaku and Lucci, which I really like. I think they might have a moment once those two regain consciousness. But they're both chilling. Having them together is very interesting too, considering who's on the way. It seems very dangerous because with those two together, they might be able to be a force, but that means that another group is going to be the first to encounter the people who are on the way, the people who might already be there, which is pretty dangerous. So then we do see like a slight flashback, and I think it's more important than we give it credit for. Bonnie with Vegapunk. Now, Bonnie smacks him, the childlike Vegapunk, and says, "Get out of here," before she goes within the memory. Now, that's kind of the last time that we saw him. We know that he's a child. I don't know if Bonnie's power is able to make him disappear. I kind of think that that's the case. I just don't really know how that works. But once again, Bonnie is being annoying with all of this. But we do get an interesting flashback, and it became more interesting the second time that I read it. But it looks like she's coming onto her father, who's a child, crying. Huge dude, a bowling ball of a man. He's getting beaten up and tortured. It seems like she's unable to really get any closer, and she's just kind of having to witness her dad as a child getting beat up. He's talking about how he doesn't want to go back. He'll die anyway if he goes back. And then what I noticed the second time is the classic Celestial Dragon haircut in one of those panels, and then it looks like Mary Joie in a neighboring panel. So I'm thinking that he was already kind of a slave, but maybe his physical attributes were something that they kind of wanted to mimic. And so he's been in Mary Joie just about his whole life. But it's kind of really tough to tell because we don't know what's happening with Bonnie. She calls him father, but is that really true? There's still a lot here to unpack that I'm not entirely sure about. But it's definitely interesting to see some of this flashback. She removes herself from the memory, or she's unable to stay within the memory, but it looks like she's going to try it again and go back in again. Kuma is still found climbing the red line. Probably not with much success. I don't know if he's going to be able to do this, but I'm rooting for him. I just don't really see it happening. She does call him dad, and she looks like she's trying to understand and try to go back in there. But I think she's part of the reason why Vegapunk has disappeared. But we'll see. Then we go to Pythagoras, which is a very interesting part. He was in the sea tower, like I said earlier. And he's just kind of looking around, and he's like, where could he be? And then he hears a noise behind him on the bridge, and right when he looks back, he gets blown up. Now, first thought, Borsalino, right? The man likes to get in there and do his job quickly, and I think that him eliminating these things and taking over kind of what CP0 was trying to do makes a lot of sense. And as long as everybody keeps separating, he's going to pick these groups off, I think. It could be somebody else. I just don't know who else it could be. If they're introducing another random character at this point to do this, I'd be like, what the hell is happening? Like, what's going on? Clearly, that's not any of the Straw Hats. I don't think that's any of the Lunafistas. I don't think it's any of the Pacifistas, because they're not even in the area. So who could that be? Who could have snuck in to the Frontier Dome? I'm not sure. I think it's Borsalino, but like I said, I'm not 100% sure. I'm interested to see what you guys might think about that. It just makes sense to me. It just makes sense. A quick little boom laser and Borsalino's in there, but we don't get to see who that is, and it immediately goes away. So I think the next chapter, which no break, celebrate, I think that's probably Borsalino, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not sure. And then we get another very interesting part. Morgan's talking about, I don't know who's giving him that info. I have no idea. But he's getting some info about that. I'll talk more about that in a second, about them trying to hunt down Vegapunk and kill him. And he's like, guess who's there? Straw Hat Luffy, that Emperor. And he's like, let's make the thing Navy skirmish at Egghead. Emperor Straw Hat Luffy takes Vegapunk hostage. Now, what's interesting about this headline is he says that the government will love it. He's like, the government's going to really appreciate this headline. And I think he's doing that so that they don't get suspicious of him and they don't really try to like look too far into his business. Because if they send enough people, if they think Morgan's is enough of an issue, they're going to take him out. The next panel, we finally get Vivi. Vivi is safe and sound. She is on the flying ship of Morgan's with, believe it or not, Wapol. I don't even know what to say or think about that, but Wapol's there. And now it's very interesting because Vivi and Wapol actually have interacted. So it's funny to see those two together, both on this ship, and like what that might mean. Like, did Wapol end up actually saving her? Was there something weird that happened? Was he a witness so they had to take him anyway? I'm not sure. But everyone's pumped that Vivi's there. Morgan's is talking shit. He's like, big words coming from a girl who was crying. I'm like, well, her dad died. Like, come on. A lot of dad stuff happening. He's like, it's not about fact or fiction. It's all about entertainment. Now, here's what I think about Morgan's. I think that he's kind of with the resistance, in the sense that I don't see his benefit of taking Vivi unless that's the case. And I think he's trying to keep the government appeased in order to accomplish these goals. But I think that he's like kind of picking a side here almost. But also playing defense by not revealing too much of what's going on. He's getting this information, and I have to think it's because he has people on both sides, but mainly it's got to be resistance people, because government people aren't too well known for sharing a lot of this information that they have. So it is very interesting. It's very interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I don't know where they're headed. I don't even know if they're headed anywhere. I don't know if Vivi's just up there, if she's going to do something with the news. I don't really think so, but I think that's just kind of a safekeeping for her now. But great chapter. More assets are being added to the war front on Egghead, and I don't know what's going to happen, but we don't have a break, so we'll see you next week. I appreciate you, babes, and have a great day. Have a great weekend, and peace out.